One of the things that I absolutely love about movies is that even if they're a part of some larger, shadier group, a cinematic universe, if you will, the individual films are still given the chance to shine. Each one represents a couple hours of endless possibility where anything can happen, and anyone can do anything. A string of bad films can be instantly broken. Actors can suddenly turn it on in a way nobody knew they could. And all the bad will a series has generated can, if only for a moment, disappear in the face of triumph. I'm not going to bury the lead here, so if you're looking for your TikTok review, here it is. Spider-Man Brand New Day is, quite possibly, the strongest film in the entire quadrilogy, and I say that as someone that loved Homecoming and still watches it fairly regularly. Now, it's entirely possible that I'm looking at this project through rose-colored glasses because we've been so desperate for decent Marvel content since Endgame. I still want my money back for Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness. Isn't Wired as tight as something like the original Iron Man or even the Avengers? No. But I promise you, the nitpicks I might have with this movie are exactly that. Nitpicks. If you're on the fence about it, let me tell you, this film is definitely worth your time. Apropos of nothing, I had this really old man realization as I watched this movie, a definite Saving Private Ryan moment. I have literally watched the majority of the principal cast in this film grow up. Don't get me wrong, I realized that Tom Holland and Zendaya were in their 20s when this whole thing started. But it's just so weird to think that they're married now. Add to that the fact that Sadie Sink was 14 when she first starred in Stranger Things, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Man, I am old. But anyway, let's talk about this cast. Across the board, even Zendaya, who I've been critical of in the past, everyone delivers in this movie. It's one of those rare moments in cinema where there are no weak links in the cast. Tom Holland, having been well seasoned by this point as both an actor and as Peter Parker, delivers emotional pathos in the way that we haven't really seen from him yet. Yes, he delivered in the final moments of Infinity War and No Way Home, but those moments were just sad. In Brand New Day, he's able to stack sadness, isolation, depression, hope, anger, fear, and love, all on top of one another to create a fully fleshed out performance that we've never really seen from him before. At least as Peter Parker. No longer is this the aw shucks high school kid worrying about his homework. This is a guy who's standing alone with the weight of the world on his shoulders, trying to grin through the pain to make sure everyone around him is happy and safe. He's ready to give all of himself until there's nothing left because that's the only way he knows how to be. A well-deserved chef's kiss for Tom Holland on this one. And the rest of the cast delivers just as hard. Sadie Sink nails her character, and I don't know if it's common knowledge yet, so for now it's going to be her character. You just watch. I'm calling it now. Assuming she's able to keep the career trajectory she's on, she's going to be an all-timer before long. Golden Globes, Oscars, maybe even a Grammy or two if she keeps up with the music. Moving on, I will admit that it took me a little while to come around to John Bernthal's new interpretation of The Punisher, but in the end I was wholeheartedly on board with it. And before you at me in the comments, let me explain. I have been watching John Bernthal play Frank Castle for 10 years. I distinctly remember losing my shit when I saw him in Daredevil Season 2 in that graveyard scene. He deserved all the Emmys for that performance. It was Frank as he always should have been as a live-action character. And that image, that perfect snapshot in time, is the image of Frank that I've carried in my mind ever since. Through every guest appearance and through both seasons of his own show, that's the Frank that's stuck in my mind. So, when I see him laughing and joking and cracking wise in Brand New Day, my first instinct is to wrinkle my nose and say, what the hell is this? But then I remember, it's been a decade. The trauma isn't gone, but the pain is somewhat lessened. The character has to evolve. It was a great decision by Bernthal, and it's why I'm so glad that he's the steward of this character. And on top of these three heavyweights, we've got Liza Colon-Zayas as Detective the Wolf. I've loved her since her first appearance in The Bear. We've got Michael Mando.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is?
Who I wish had been given more screen time. Keith David, even if only for a moment. and Tramell Tillman to round out a very stacked cast that delivers in every scene they're in. If anyone has any complaints about this film, I bet good money that it won't be because of its acting. I would love to tell you that Spider-Man Brand New Day was gorgeously shot, because it absolutely was. But that phrase, as applicable as it might be, doesn't really give the full scope of just how amazing the camera work in this film is. Gorgeously shot can be applied to pretty much any blockbuster movie these days, as directors and cinematographers have really dialed in just how to make a film visually stunning. The compliment just doesn't hold the same weight that it used to, because the bar for that aspect of filmmaking has been raised so damn high. So, unfortunately, until we come up with a new way to explain just how incredible something looks, I'm afraid gorgeously shot will have to do. Let me know down in the comments if you've got another one. All of this is to say that Brand New Day represents a new benchmark for the MCU, and it's one that I hope films like Doomsday will actually strive to exceed. This version of New York flawlessly captures that comic book feel that is so important in a movie like this. The buildings are a little taller, the streets are a little narrower, and it feels like exactly the kind of playground Peter Parker would love to swing around in. And the film uses this backdrop to its fullest extent. There are shots close up on Spider-Man as he travels that cranks my adrenaline, as they represent the closest I'll ever get to being the wall crawler. Wide shots, fantastically established place to really give that feeling of freedom, and all the different angles of a given fight scene show just how hectic fighting Spider-Man can truly be. I can't prove it, but given that I experienced roughly the same feelings watching the Spider-Verse movies, I'd bet that they had a massive impact on how this film chose to showcase Spider-Man. And it's not just the spectacle either. The quiet moments are just as impactful, not being afraid to linger on the characters to actually allow the actors to fully emote. There are scenes between Peter and MJ that felt voyeuristic in the best possible way, as if I were looking through the keyhole into their intensely private moments. The body jumping scenes as well were shot excellently, fast enough to give you the sense of speed, but stable enough that you never lost track of what was going on. It all felt deliberate in a way that I haven't really experienced in an MCU movie since even before Endgame. The team knew what they wanted, and they actually got it. Now, with all the praise I've heaped on Brand New Day, you might be thinking that this is a perfect movie, or damn close to one at any rate. It is not. And I've reserved my issues with it for this section because I want you, the viewer, to know that despite these issues, Brand New Day is still a fantastic movie and well worth your time and money to experience on the biggest screen possible. All good? Alright. First off, we've got the other side of this camera work that I was just going on about. There are more than a few moments in this movie where the editing kind of smash cuts between sections of a fight, or even between entire scenes that left me with cognitive whiplash and forced me to recenter myself on what was happening on screen. There's a moment at the tail end of the film where the Punisher makes a roughly 2-kilometer round trip through a lot of obstacles to get to Peter that is just completely glossed over in favor of keeping the pacing up. Next, we've got a few writing choices that left me scratching my head. For example, the inclusion of the hand. Don't get me wrong, I've got no issues with the organization conceptually, but they're a big part of the Marvel Universe, and it felt like they've just been kind of dropped into this film as an afterthought to get the big blowout fight sequence at the end. For a movie that's otherwise wired fairly tight, it felt like they've just been shoehorned in. Which leads me neatly into the inclusion of Bruce Banner and Black Widow. Now, I get it. This is an MCU movie, and they want to connect it to the larger continuity so Spider-Man doesn't feel like he's been shoehorned in for Doomsday. I'm 100% on board. But, unless I missed something, which is entirely possible, I haven't kept up with all the stuff Marvel's been putting out recently, Peter Parker has never met Yelena on screen before. So, when they're chatting like they've known each other for a while, it left me kind of scratching my head as to where this relationship evolved from. It's a minor thing, but it's one that stuck with me. Finally, we've got Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Now, retconning Smart Hulk I think was a brilliant move. You can squeeze a lot more out of the Banner-Hulk relationship if they're antagonistic to one another. And using this retcon as a plot device for Brand New Day was equally as brilliant, because it gives an in-universe reason for this to have happened. My issue, and there's really no avoiding it, is that this retcon is so blatantly obvious that I kept coming back to it every time Bruce was on screen. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. And honestly, it's not even that big of a deal. It's just something that I personally found a little distracting. Spider-Man Brand New Day is a triumphant film and a massive shot in the arm for a franchise that has desperately needed a win. By no means does it assuage my fears for Doomsday, but at least it's got me optimistic that maybe, just maybe, they can pull this off after all. I'm positive that you, the viewer, had your mind made up about whether or not you were going to see this movie well before you clicked on my video. But just in case you were on the fence about it, I wholeheartedly recommend this new entry in the Spider-Man series. You will not be disappointed that you went. One last thing before I sign off though, don't bother waiting through the credits. The secret scene is basically pointless if you know where the MCU is headed. Anyway, that's all I've got for you this time, so if you could do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons, I'd really appreciate it. Every little bit really helps me out. Also, head down to the comments and let me know if there's anything you guys would like to see me cover in the future. And, while you're at it, go ahead and check out the other videos on my channel, or hit up my website to see my blog and maybe check out one of my books on Amazon. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.